Since this last summer, there's been a clear and alarming pattern in the defendant's life. There are literally 3 active investigations of suspicious deaths that she is related to. And we are aware that the defendant's new husband received a substantial sum of life insurance proceeds from the death of his wife last October. The children are still missing. And the defendant has not only misled law enforcement in their efforts to find the children, but she has completely and utterly refused to aid in any attempts to find the children, even before charges were filed.
There it is, the so-called Doomsday mom, surrounded by 3 mysterious deaths and her 2 children, missing now at least 169 days. Lori Vallow Daybell and her 5th husband, Chad, their beliefs, teachings of the end of days looming over this mystery. We bring back Nate Eaton, also joining us. Steve Hassan. Steve is a cult expert. He was in a cult and also author of the book Combating Cult Mind Control. So, Steve, good to have you join us here. So what do you make? Here's Lori Vallow Daybell. She's facing felony charges of deserting her kids, yet she's wearing full face of makeup, the bright lipstick, the pink handcuffs. Does her, to me, I'll say this, her demeanor almost like she's above it all. Does her end of days thinking have anything to do with that? Give me your thoughts.
It's the only thing that really makes sense to me, that she has undergone a radical personality change and getting under the control of Chad Daybell, and that he's programmed her with these radical beliefs, saying that she's doing, her mission for God, and don't pay attention to the world because the world is of Satan.
Yeah.
So just be above it all.
Yeah, you're right. If that makes sense, that demeanor fits that. Like, oh, you poor people. If you only knew what Chad and I know. Nate, remind us, what do we know about Chad and Lori's beliefs?
Well, they believe that the world's going to be ending here on July 22nd of this year. We know that Lori, when about a year ago, her husband, Charles, at the time, went before a judge when he filed for divorce and custody of his kids, said that Lori believed she's one of the 144,000 who will usher in the second coming of Jesus Christ. She told people that this is her mission, that she has been reincarnated or translated, I guess you could call it, meaning she's above everybody else, and that if anybody got in her way, they would die. She told her husband that, you will die if you get in the way of my mission. So it's no doubt that her beliefs are influencing all of this, and that may be one of the reasons that she won't say where the children are, because she believes that it is more of a religious, spiritual type reasoning as to whatever has happened to them.
No, well said, Nate. So let's let everybody listen to that. This is from the divorce documents. This is her now late husband, 4th husband, Charles Vallow's allegations, as read by one of our producers. Here it is.
Lori informed Charles that she was a god assigned to carry out the work of the 144,000 at Christ's second coming in July 2020, and that if Charles got in her way of her mission, she would murder him. Lori proceeded to warn Charles that she would kill him upon his return home and had an angel there to help her dispose of the body. She also mentioned that she could not trust Charles and that she would not only kill him, but would destroy him financially.
Wow, again, what a stark reminder we get there. Steve, as we look at Lori and her 5 husbands and that thinking, how dangerous could she be?
Well, I think, for me, the fact that she was married multiple times suggested a certain instability in her character, but the information that I've been learned of is that she was a loving mother, and it was only when she fell under the spell of Chad Daybell that she became so radicalized. And I would, also say that if she thinks that July is going to, bring the end of the world, when that doesn't happen in July, there'll be a rationalization of why it didn't happen this time. That's many doomsday cults make a date and then they go, well, that we have more light now, or something different has happened.
Got it. Nate, you guys did some great work. You peeled back the curtain, spoke to some people in this, let's say, prepper movement, getting ready for the end. Well, what stood out to you, and how does it relate to Chad and Lori? What do these people think of Chad and Lori?
Chad among this group was idolized, and he still is by among so many people. He has actually written down predictions before that the world would end back in 2016 and at other times. And then when that doesn't happen, as your other guest mentioned, they rationalize it and say well, we're not quite ready for the second coming, but here's when it will happen again. He wrote down that the last election that people would be able to vote in was the election of 2016. Well, here we are in 2020 preparing to vote for another election. So he's been idolized. He's been looked to. He's sold numerous books. He's written columns for newsletters that are emailed out to his followers and other people in this group. So yeah, he's looked upon, although I would say over the past few weeks as this case has gone on, some of these people are becoming a little bit more skeptical and questioning some of what he's said, simply because these children aren't anywhere, and they're saying if Chad knows, he should just say, so that all of these worries can be put to rest.
Yeah, you know, we had a chance to speak with JJ's grandparents, Kay and Larry Woodcock, and they echo, Steve, some of what you were saying, and you as well. The change in Lori, from the person who seemed to be a loving, caring mom to someone who had changed so radically. Here again, JJ's grandparents. Let's listen to that. Okay, oh, do we have that? Okay, we do not have that.
Well, I'd like to just jump in and
go
say
ahead,
that
Steve.
I listened to Nate's interview with a former prepper who talked about quasi-hypnotic techniques used on her and described a very cultish kind of scenario. And when Nate just talked about people idolizing Chad, this all is reminiscent of an authoritarian, undue influence cult. And I suspect they are using hypnotic techniques, not like stage hypnosis, but bypassing people's critical faculties, filling them with the belief that God is speaking through Chad, and any doubt is evil spirits trying to undermine it. So you have to just believe.
Interesting. Steve, you go back to your time when you were in a cult. Did you care what anybody else thought of you? Was that even in your mindset?
No, because the world was divided into us doing God's will and the rest of the world, which was filled with Satan. And so when I was asked to throw out my poetry as a demonstration of my obedience to God, I did it. When I fasted for Nixon during Watergate because Moon said God wanted him to be president, even though I hated Nixon before I had been recruited into the cult, I fully believed it 100%.
Wow, fascinating. And one last thing on that point, Nate, in the people you talk to, did you get that us versus them mentality? We're enlightened, everybody else is under an evil spell, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely. And there's no reasoning with them, no rationale, because they will always say, well, this is what God wants me to do. I've heard it described as the fringe of the fringe, meaning they're not just on the fringe, they're more out there. And these people that are now leaving the group or that are now seeing what's going on are now questioning everything they've ever believed. And for people involved, that can be hard. That can be challenging.
Wow. All right. Steve, always good to see you. Nate, thanks so much.